Welcome to another episode of China Update, where I provide you with the most up-to-date political, economic, and geostrategic analysis on the world's number 2 economy. My name is Tony. Let's jump in. Okay, happy Monday everybody. I hope you have had a restful weekend and I wish you all a productive week ahead. We begin as we usually do with the economy, and official data released over the weekend showed an incredible plunge in industrial profits as deflationary pressures sap the strength of corporate finances. According to National Bureau of Statistics numbers published yesterday, Sunday, last month's industrial profits at large Chinese companies fell 27.1% from a year earlier, after a 17.8% plunge in August. Profits decreased 3.5% in the first 9 months from the same period in 2023. The figures come amid mounting pressure on Beijing to support the economy after a string of disappointing data that highlight the effects of a multi-year property slowdown and weaker consumer demand. We remember that policymakers in late September unveiled a series of measures designed to boost confidence and support the stock and housing markets. We remember too, however, that analysts called for further fiscal stimulus to restore momentum. We now know that China's National People's Congress Standing Committee will meet from the 4th through the 8th of November, where it is hoped we will get more information of Beijing's would-be fiscal stimulus. In a note, Bloomberg Economics explained yesterday that deepening deflation in producer prices was likely to drag on company earnings despite faster growth in industrial output. Factory gate prices extended declines for a 24th straight month in September, with the recent drop accelerating, reflecting weak domestic demand. Meanwhile, Chinese financial media outlet Yicai reports that consumer demand for gold at jewelry retailers in China remain low despite the recent surge in product prices bought by the yellow metals price reaching record highs, which has previously led to an increase in sales. Spot gold prices continued to soar in Asian markets last week, reaching a new record high of $2,754 per ounce. However, Yicai found no crowds at Shanghai's jewelry retail stores. The staff at the jewelry store told the outlet that business in the second half of this year was not good, as in previous years, mainly because the gold price stayed too high. The shop sold much more gold bars than jewelry this year, because the difference between bars' premium price to the spot one is much less than that of jewelry to spot. It is also a sign that households wish to pour money into gold as a hedge against other assets rather than for jewelry per se. Only 860,000 tons of gold jewelry were sold on the Chinese market in the second quarter of this year, a record low since 2009, according to a report from the World Gold Council. Consumers bought 270 tons of gold jewelry in the 6 months ended June 30th, down 18% from a year earlier. Next up, over the weekend, I was surprised when a few friends in Shanghai warned that I shouldn't wear a Halloween costume or risk getting arrested. They explained that it seems that Halloween costumes are now considered politically sensitive. Authorities in Shanghai clamped down on Halloween costumes this year, aiming to prevent a reoccurrence of last year's large gathering where some attendees wore politically themed outfits. On Saturday, police gathered people in costumes on Julu Road, the center of last year's Halloween celebrations, and took them to a building where they were required to remove makeup and tone down their attire. On Friday night, authorities had also set up temporary barriers on Julu Road to discourage crowds from gathering there. One 22-year-old student described how his hat and cat ears were deemed unacceptable unless he was going to Disneyland, and he was taken to remove his makeup, waiting in line as others were also processed. The restrictions come just days before Halloween and follow last year's massive Halloween turnout on Julu Road, viewed as a rare public expression after years of strict COVID lockdowns. Last year's gatherings featured outfits like hazmat suits, satirizing the government's zero-COVID policy, as well as historical figures, leading to viral images on social media. The Halloween celebrations had happened against a backdrop of political control, including the crackdown on discussions around pandemic restrictions. For myself, my own evening antics on Saturday were enjoyed a province over, where no such costume restrictions were in place. At midnight, the dance floor was occupied with a disturbingly large number of Chinese dressed as Teletubbies, including 3 Tinky Winkies, and an unholy 5 lalas. It was a fun night, but sad to think that if these young Chinese partygoers had been in Shanghai, just a few hours away, they might have been detained by the police for donning a costume on Halloween. Next up, we move to China's birth rate collapse. But just quickly, if you're getting some value from today's episode, don't forget to hit the like button. China Update has not been treated well by the YouTube algorithm this last month and a half. All I can do is continue making the best episodes that I can, and if you do enjoy them or get some value from them, it's a tremendous help if you like. And if you have not done so already, subscribe. Sharing with people who you think would get value from this sort of content is also a tremendous help. Hopefully we can turn the algorithm around. Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee links are also in the description for those who want to help keep China Update financially sustainable. Thank you so much. And finally for today, according to an annual report from the Ministry of Education, the number of kindergartens in China saw a drop of over 5% last year, reflecting the nation's declining birth rate. In 2023, there were 14,808 fewer kindergartens, reducing the total to 274,400, marking the second year in a row of decline. Kindergarten enrollment also continued its downward trend, decreasing by 11.55%, 5.35 million children to 40.9 million. Primary schools saw a similar decline, with 5,645 fewer schools, bringing the total to 143,500, a 3.8% decline. These changes underscore a broader demographic shift, of course, posing a risk to future economic growth, which is already slowing. Last year, China's population fell for the second consecutive year, reaching 1.4 billion officially, a decrease of over 2 million. Some analysts outside of the country have argued that China's real population may be even smaller. With only 9 million births recorded in 2023, this marked the lowest figure since record-keeping began in 1949. The China Population and Development Research Center reported that the fertility rate dropped to 1.09 in 2022, and demographers believe it fell below 1.0 in 2023, although official figures are unavailable. A fertility rate of 2.1 children per woman is generally needed to maintain a stable population. In Shanghai, the financial megacity, the fertility rate dropped to 0.6 in 2023. Meanwhile, Chinese financial media outlet Caixin published a story today about a newly married woman in Fujian called Li Zi. The outlet writes that in the months that followed her marriage last September, Li Zi received repeated phone calls from her community. They had one question: "Are you pregnant yet?" Already frustrated by the pressures to have a child coming from her relatives, the young woman living in East China's Fujian province finally told the caller she had no plans to get pregnant this year. However, after a break of a few months, the calls started again last week. Li Zi's experience, writes the outlet, reflects a growing trend across China. Quote, "Grassroots workers, either working for local government offices or for official residence committees, known as Juweihui, are reaching out to women of childbearing age to ask about their reproductive plans." End quote. Many women took to social media to share their experience, with some asking, quote, "Is this government now telling grassroots workers to urge people to have kids?" End quote. In September, Liu Chen was called by a worker from the local community that contains her former workplace, who asked whether she had plans to have children. The unmarried resident of Chengdu, capital of Sichuan province, told Caixin that she felt offended by the question. The outlet explains, quote, "These phone calls are part of broader measures that aim to monitor fertility and provide related services. China's birth rate has fallen to low levels in recent years, prompting the authorities to drop their decades-long campaign of limiting population growth to promoting a fertility-friendly society." End quote. The outlet explains that when couples register for their marriage certificate or a woman gives birth at a hospital, their information is sent to local family planning officers. The information is then forwarded to neighborhood-level workers who would contact the newlyweds or new mothers. A 2020 document issued by the Shandong Provincial Health Commission on population monitoring called on neighborhood-level administrative bodies to collect information on women of childbearing age and report the data to higher-level officers. Financial pressures, such as housing costs, high educational competition, and economic uncertainty, are discouraging families from having children. A recent survey in Ningbo showed that nearly half of single, childless women preferred having only one child, over a third wanted no children, and just 15% wanted two. Additionally, 56% viewed marriage as optional, with nearly 6% seeing no need to marry at all. Okay, that is today's episode of China Update. Thank you so much everybody for watching. Have a good Monday, and I will see you all tomorrow.